Hey, what's up, investors? My name is Devin Moreno, and today I'm going to go into why I deleted my property management company. I completely abandoned it, and whether or not you, as a new investor, should get into property management. I actually think many of you should. I'll get into that, but the reasons for that, but also with the intent to get out of it eventually. And there's some reasons behind that too. There's a lot of successful property management companies out there, but my personal vision just simply can't fit it. I'm going to talk about why, and I'm going to talk about the numbers and actually how to really make money in property management, at least from what I've seen and from the experience of one of my friends who has been doing property management for like 20 years. Other business models might be a little bit different. I'm going to share my business model. I actually was going to scale a property management company based on rooming houses. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And I'll get into the numbers. I actually have on my computer here all the numbers and breakdowns. So we'll go into that as well. So first of all, why did I quit? So the main reason that I quit is because better opportunities were available. See, my mentors were actually looking at it and seeing that I have a construction company, which I, still operate and manage. I had a property management company. I still technically did roll as my job, which is like kind of a part-time thing as of this point. But it's still that I do the YouTube channel, and I'm doing all of this kind of by myself. And I have a little bit of a team. I have a couple people who work for me, plus my construction crew, but I haven't really scaled it to an operation where I'm not as involved, or at least I have more cogs in the wheel. And so basically I'm stretched thin, and it was time to delete one of those. And we just looked at, okay, what opportunity would actually give me the most money? It's sort of like if you're an electrical engineer and then you decide to paint nails in a nail salon or whatnot. No offense to anyone painting nails in a nail salon, but you're probably going to make more money as an electrical engineer. And so if you have that skill and talent, why not pursue that instead? And so since I'm starting to learn renovations, at least to a degree where I can have that conversation with contractors, and I already know how to find deals and such, I'm starting to move myself toward flipping instead of doing this whole property management and wholesaling as well and such. So, and also, of course, keep continuously buying rentals. So I'm going to keep managing my own properties, but just not manage for other people. And the reason why is because, honestly, the money just simply isn't there. If you think about it, 10% of, a Baltimore rent, like an average rent about being like $1,500. So it's $150 a month. Multiply that by what? 12. And you've got, something ridiculous here. I'm bad at math, actually. So $1,800 a year. So basically, that's just really not worth, like, unless you do that at scale. I mean, let's do that times 100 houses or 1,000 houses. I mean, that's the only, like, it's really, you need a lot of houses under management. And I find that most of the property management companies that are actually really successful, are doing it for like apartment complexes, not actually for like single family homes scattered about. So it just simply doesn't make enough money for the amount of effort required of it, unless I automate that. Sure, it doesn't require that many personnel to operate, but it's still maybe not as constructive of a business model as the other one. Now, property management is still good for new investors, and here's why I think that is. Now, if you're a new investor starting out, oftentimes you're going to need to learn construction and learn how to work with contractors and actually make yourself appear bigger to contractors than you really are. So one easy way to do this is to manage properties for other people. There's a ton of significant advantages there, right? And this is assuming you're already just making money only from your day job. So you're trying to, one, learn how to automate real estate, but now you can do it on someone else's dime. Okay, two, you're learning construction, but on someone else's dime. All right, so you're using other people's money to pay for your experience and education. You also get tenant management experience, tenant placement experience. These are all fundamental skills if you're actually starting out in real estate and trying to figure this out and growing the ropes of it. And you are also, all right, from all of that aside, you are having access to the owners themselves. Many of these property owners may have money, and I have actually borrowed money from people that I manage houses from. Maybe they're going to sell their property, and you're the first to know about it. So it creates a unique opportunity for you to no first on the market type of deals. Okay, you also will have access to anything else they buy. So generally, if you're doing well for that property owner, then they're going to be happy to keep giving you more and more properties, and that'll give you more and more access to that individual. So I would say continue to do this until you figure out either you're scaled too far or you find you like it, and then I guess keep going with it. And I didn't mind it, to be honest. I didn't like how much money was part of it. So it really isn't that lucrative, I guess we'll say. Because I mean, if you think about it, I was making like $125 as a minimum per door per month. It's like, all right, not really that much going on. So I wanted to do bigger and better opportunities. But for the new investor, for all of those reasons, I think it's a great deal. But here's actually the way that I think most single family home operators, like property managers, really make their money. And that's going to be on the maintenance side of everything. All right. So yeah, you get the money for the actual rent, the gross month's rent every single month, sure. But realistically, when you get maintenance items, you actually want to upcharge. See, I had my own construction company, so I could actually get a very cheap price because I employ my own crew. I get a cheap price to get the work done, and then I upcharge massively over that, minimum 35% on top of whatever it costs to do the job. And that's just minimum. So a lot of times you could even charge more. If you actually find someone who really can do the job effectively, but then charges very, very little, then just because maybe they live in the building or whatever their circumstance is, they just don't care. They don't really need the money. They just are looking to do some work. I've run into that a number of times where you can still charge on top of that as well. And this is how a lot of those smaller property management companies will make a majority of the money. You see, if nothing's going on in the property, then you can just make your 125, whatever. You're not even thinking about the property. But as soon as maintenance comes up, that's an opportunity to charge. So you scale out all of these different properties and then charge on top. Now, if you are a newer investor without your own construction crew and now access to cheaper contractors, then you can just use a normal contractor and charge just a little bit on top, just simply to break that margin. Now, you're going to have to be open about this to many property owners because they're going to want to see receipts for the job and such. This is where my construction company actually has a unique advantage because I create the company and that company creates the receipt. So that is the receipt now, like that's the price and that's the price of the job. So essentially, construction is one of the areas, and then the other one is tenant placement. Tenant placement, you make a full month's rent. So by just simply renting in higher end areas like the counties and such, or places with higher rent amounts, now you're making even more money. So you're making, like, let's say, a house is renting for $2,500, which is very typical out in the county. Then you just made $2,500 off of a single tenant placement. And if you automate that and learn how to systemize that, you can actually make that money pretty regularly. I can place a tenant in a week or less time, and that allows you to just run through these things, and people will learn how fast you are at it. They'll love you for it because that helps their vacancy, and then they're going to refer you to everyone. And then if sooner as you get faster and faster and faster, boom. So I do a lot of different things to do that, using VAs, using virtual walkthroughs of the property, using different screening methods, and also only allocating like 1 hour block of time for mass showings. Just there's a lot of different strategies and techniques. I talk about it on this channel a lot, but just note that's another way you can make a lot of money. Now, many of you might be wondering about my unique spin on this, and that's with my rooming houses. I actually was going to launch a rooming house property management company for a lot of people who want to buy rooming houses but are just afraid of managing them. I will say I will still dabble on this on the side. So if any of you have an opportunity for a rooming house and you just simply don't want to deal with it, then I will go ahead and manage it. It really doesn't take that much of my time. I can automate it and systemate it pretty well. So what I'm not doing is I'm not scaling that. So I'm just doing it for now. Well, I'm kind of growing the more acquisition side of my real estate, buying properties and then turning them out into revenue generators. But as far as flips and such, wholesaling. But if you are interested, then yes, I will still manage a rooming house. Now, let me show you the numbers though on what exactly that would look like here on my computer. So here you see a spreadsheet, and I tried to make it as simple as possible here. So hopefully you're not overwhelmed by the numbers. I can actually maybe go ahead and zoom in here. Let's do maybe 150% zoom. So all the color blocks is all you need to expect. So in a rooming house, the average rent is going to be about $800, all right? And there's 4 people, let's just say on average in a rooming house. Now keep in mind, many of my houses have 5 and 6, but let's just say 4 for the purposes of this video. So the revenue generated per house is $3,200, okay? So that's the actual revenue. So if I were to actually charge a management fee of 15%, which is the percentage I do for rooming houses, then I would have a gross profit of 480, which means the owner is still bringing home 2,800 in this type of scenario. Generally, the property is going to be about $200,000, so they'll be well clearing their mortgage, so they're making a profit, I'm making a profit, and it's a lot more than the number that I was talking about earlier. So, okay, I'm happy. Great. All right. And I expect them to turn over, let's say, one person a year. Let's just go with that. Most people stay on average 2 years. So that's my expected turnover rate. Now, that's actually important because the turnover, all right, generates me revenue as well. So I'm getting that amount per year as well. So that's kind of jumping on top of this. So now next, the actual management part of it. This is actually how much I'm making. Okay. So I'm making 480. They're making 2,800 or 2,700 in this case, and then yearly revenues, I would be making 5,000 per house, or almost 6,000 instead of 1,000 or 2,000. Now, even still with these numbers, my mentors did not like this model. They just were like, why would you spend all this effort on a single house? Hence why I scrapped it. Now, here's more of the money that comes into it. Maintenance markups. All right, so basically these are all things that have to be done in rooming houses or even other, it doesn't matter, like many of them, obviously not the cleaning so much, but many of these. So what ended up happening is I put down the expected contractor price based on the prices that I might, be able to do it for or get it for. I mark it up by 35%. I get that margin on it. So simply just by hiring the contractor, I get that. And then the final price is there. And then I just calculate how many times a year do I actually expect that to happen. And then the yearly cost of the yearly margin, the actual amount I'm making per house, all right, is another $2,000. So that's stacked on top of that. So now I'm making like $8,000 per house. Okay. And then you have ad hoc maintenance markups. So basically, and I didn't write these down because it's a little hard. I already scrapped the business before I even got a chance to, but this is a little harder to calculate. It's basically things just kind of going wrong throughout the year. Yes, I keep on charging on top of that. I also charge for application fees. I make $20 for every $60 the tenant pays. So 40 of it goes to the actual credit card company, 20 to me. That's nothing, honestly. And you'd expect 3 applications per every time I do a showing, right? So it's not going to be a huge amount of money really right there. Tenant markups, sure, you could charge for cleaning supplies and stuff, especially in the rooming house. You could sell digital courses based on this. You could sell group memberships. Maybe I teach people how to do rooming houses, and then sell it for group memberships, whatever, to teach people how to do it. They didn't like that either because they said there wasn't a huge demand for rooming houses. Now, here's the thing. I think that actually in the future, there is going to be a big demand for rooming houses. I actually think this is a really big thing, and that's why I'm going to still hold on to it. But for now, while I'm in more need of capital, I'm just focusing on one thing. So real estate commissions. So this was actually me recommending houses to people, and then they buy them, and then, I become a realtor, get the finder's fee or whatever for it. Not actually transact the deal. Like I would refer them to an agent and then collect the finder's fee for it. So I'd be more of an agent who's just referral agent. Referral agent is what they call them. So initial client onboarding, all of this stuff. There's a bunch of other stuff, all right? But I only really calculated these sections right here. And so I calculated that across this, spreadsheet, and I said at scale, what does that look like? So one house we know generates me about $7,000 a year, all right, conservatively. Remember, this is based on a 4-bedroom house, all paying $800 a month. I have rooming houses charging $1,000 and there's 5 people. I mean, it just depends, right? So then you have 5 houses. What does that look like? All right, total revenue per house, total revenue from the houses. So this is all the houses. Sorry, this is actually should be deleted. So that obviously stays constant. So basically, total revenue from 5 of these rooming houses is $41,000 a year. Total revenue from 20 of these houses is this. Now you can see this at scale actually grows much faster than a typical property management company. And I've just calculated all these fees and management fees and revenues and all that in there. But the problem is it still doesn't make as much as flipping houses does, or like wholesaling and all that. And the effort there is constant, right? So maybe you have a little bit of a mix because I already have to do rooming houses. So maybe I burr a house and then I turn it into a rooming house to make the numbers work. And then, hey, I still have that operation, which is why I'm still doing it today. But these are some things I just wanted you to think about, that if you want to do property management kind of at all for money, then it's going to be a long road to get significant wealth, because remember, I just talked to you about revenue. We never talked about the costs of the business, which are kind of minimal, but I'd have to hire an employee, at least like 3. And then realistically, you'd want a handyman for that many properties, like solely dedicated to the properties. So now I'm hiring multiple people. So I've taken that revenue. So let's say I do 50 houses. You probably at least want, I don't know, 1 VA, an employee or 2, and then, a handyman. I mean, just that alone is going to blow through half of your gross revenue. So that's the inherent issue. So you want to keep scaling and scaling and scaling, because now at 100 houses, you probably have a better economy of scale. And then, you keep going. But then the question is, how many rooming houses are there actually going to be, right? So that's all my problems with it. But yes, do I think new investors should do it in the beginning? Absolutely. But if you have any more questions about this, let me know, comment below, and I'll talk to you all very soon.